understanding of Africa before they can take advantage of the opportunities there?
I definitely do think that American companies need to obtain more comprehensive information on Africa across the board: social information, demographic information, political information. My having worked with American companies extensively, I find that, especially with regards to Africa, to be an incredible impediment. The larger companies have the wherewithal and the deep pockets to be able to take care of that problem. They can establish subsidiaries overseas, they can hire attorneys overseas in the major capitals, and they can have an inside view of the landscape, of the economic landscape in any particular market that they're developing. I think we have a way to go here in the United States as far as getting a different mindset and looking at Africa in a much more realistic way.
So, Michelle, in your the way you all give very grassroots grants for organizations to actually fix things, and some of the projects you mentioned, how are you focused on actually getting companies ready to do business to the point where, whether it's, it doesn't need to be joint ventures with GEs of the world, but actually doing business either regionally within the country? Is that part of the focus?
Yes, it very much is. And really, the off-grid energy work that we're doing as part of Power Africa is in some sense a departure, because we recognize that while in our core work, we work with some very small groups, some groups who maybe have 50 to 100 members, and they may not really even understand whether or not they're making a profit because they're not keeping their books. We work with some much more sophisticated cooperatives who are already exporting X number of containers of high-end coffee to, Europe and selling it to Starbucks in the United States. But when it comes to the power needs that we have been moving up the learning curve very rapidly over the last year to try to get our arms around and to try to help catalyze with some pilots, we're going to small companies. Now, they are all African-led. They are 100% African-owned and managed. Some of them have a very good track record, and they came to ADF. They were, one of 6 companies of over 150 who applied in the first round of our grant challenge, and they maybe are just expanding. So we have some Kenyan companies who have a model that is really looking at innovative ways of not only distributing, but as well, what kind of metering systems are they putting into place? What kind of warranties and guarantees are they providing to their customer base so the solar lanterns they're plugging, don't break down in a year and then everyone is left high and dry? So we are really looking again at a different level of an African small business that has the basic small business, know-how and building blocks in terms of accounting, in terms of management, in terms of basic finances, in terms of marketing, in terms of putting a business plan together. And so we see that level of know-how there. What we don't see is patient capital, even at this very small level. We don't see a lot of project finance. So we really want to be helping these small, innovative African companies who are already in the energy sector, or they may be using this ABC model of an anchor tenant, businesses around it who need access to reliable, affordable electricity, as well as a wider customer base, such as a university we're working with in the western part of Nigeria that has taken some technology that's hydroelectric as well as solar to not only be solving their own energy needs, but also be serving the wider community.
So speaking of patient capital, George Manyimani, I just came from South Africa this morning, and I met with the South African Treasury and Ministry of Energy, and I was just amazed at how successful the renewable IPP program of South Africa is. Eskom being on one side, but on the renewables, they are doing unbelievable amount of business, and they are oversubscribed. They've brought the asking price down significantly. So the question to you is, how can South Africa help some of the regional players? I mean, obviously you buy electricity from Lesotho and some of the other countries, but in terms of know-how and knowledge, is there a chance that South Africa might be able to help? And what can these countries do to learn from South Africa on their own? And what can U.S. government agencies and other donors do to create that bridge?
Thank you. I think firstly let me just say that it is important to note the fact that the challenges that we face when it comes to energy, are actually quite regional. So therefore, it requires a regional approach. It is an issue that requires cross-border initiatives. If you're going to really address the issue of electricity, both from a generation and transmission and distribution perspective. So that is quite important. What role can we play as South Africa? We believe that we have played quite an important role within the region and beyond. Firstly, as an investor and through one of our public utilities that I mentioned earlier, which is Eskom. And I think that is quite important because as soon as you begin to actually accumulate and harvest the resources within the region, that will actually assist you to unlock, some of the potential that we want to see, even from an economic, growth perspective. So that's quite critical. I had mentioned just the example that is related to the Power Africa initiative, which is, pretty much a partnership between Eskom and Duke Energy, which is a U.S. company, to try and drive some of the initiatives within that region. And we believe that that in itself not only attracts investments, but it also brings in technology. The issue of technology transfer becomes a very important one to look at. We as a government, of course, in South Africa, are pursuing initiatives to ensure that we can at least double the percentage share of renewable energy within the energy mix as a whole. We have also gone through a scenario where we faced our own challenges. As you know, a few years back, we really had an energy crunch within South Africa, which was a very good time to learn because we had also gone for about a decade without investing, in the generation of new energy. So we were moving from, really moving from that perspective. So I think there's a lot to do, and there's a lot that we can achieve within the region and beyond in working with other countries.
Okay. Speaking of, by the way, any questions? Yes, please.
Can I
Just go ahead and ask. I'll
all right.
repeat it for you.
Hi, my name is Neha Misra. I serve as the Chief Collaboration Officer of a startup social enterprise called Solar Sister. We are working in Uganda, Tanzania, Nigeria, and we are at the cusp of scale-up. We are working with the Development Innovation Ventures and the W Power program from the State Department. My question is related to our work, which is focused on one last mile distribution of clean energy for over 600 million Africans who have not seen a single light bulb, so which is other part of the picture, right? One, we are talking about large scale infrastructure level projects, but two, the hand in hand, there's a big need to develop, like Michelle, you were talking about off-grid projects and really grassroots efforts. So under Powering Africa scheme of things, how much